In 1955 and 1956, you were placed on a bill with Elvis Presley, and you both hit it off immediately there. And from my understanding, it was up until then, you had pretty much been singing just country music, and it was Elvis, along with your father, who encouraged you to sing also rockabilly or rock and roll music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true, because rock and roll, as it eventually became known, and we were called rockabillys, stemming from the word hillbilly.
Sure.
And Elvis was, his title was the Hillbilly Cat. And after working with him just a little while, we liked each other, and we went out before and after our jobs when we were on tour.
Sure.
And but it was then that he began talking to me about recording this music and explaining to me that it wasn't just adults who bought records anymore. It was also the young people, the teenagers, and that this was their music. And, of course, I was a teenager myself. Mm-hmm. I loved the music, too, and wanted to do it. I just didn't have the confidence. But after his continued encouragement, and my daddy thought he was right in that, and then I decided to try my hand at it a couple of years later, and it's turned out to be a very good thing for me. It
Sure.
wasn't in those years, in the late 50s, however.
But
I only got one hit in America
Sure.
in the rock and roll, and that was "Let's Have a Party."
But you became the first woman to record a rock and roll record, too, which is really a large point.
That's right. And so I could see, though, pretty quick, the disc jockeys weren't going to play a teenage girl singing this new music.
Sure.
So what we began to do, I still was determined to record it, but I'd put a country song on one side of my single and then a rock song on the other, hoping to at least keep my country airplay up, which that worked very well for me.
Sure, we'll talk about some of those songs in just a minute, but I'd just like to go back for a second and let everyone know that along with Elvis, you also toured with Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins, and Johnny Cash, and quite a few others of the rock and roll scene back then. And I'm sure many of the listeners have seen the Johnny Cash movie Walk the Line, which your song Right or Wrong was featured in the movie. But your character was also featured.
It was actually, just correct one little point,
Sure.
Walk the Line used my song of Fujiyama Mama.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
That is correct.
I got to work with all those great people, and, they were my friends, and they weren't superstars, of course, at that point, but they were the trendsetters, the movers and the shakers.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And they were causing quite a stir in the music industry, just turned it upside down, and hardly anybody knew what to record anymore, especially the country and western artists.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I just mixed mine and did both of them.
Sure. Some of your great hits were I Gotta Know in '56, Let's Have a Party, In the Middle of a Heartache, Right or Wrong, Tears Will Be the Chaser for Your Wine, Fancy Satin Pillows. What do you think was probably your favorite song that you ever recorded?
Oh, gee, I don't know.
Not to put you on the spot.
Well, I think Right or Wrong, probably. It stood the test of time, and
Sure.
I've done it on every show ever since, and I never really get tired of singing that song. It's
well, you sing
I
it.
wrote it, of course, but that's not the reason it's my favorite. It's just a very easy song to sing, and it isn't. Other words, it's the type of song that is good throughout the years. It isn't dated.
Sure. And we can't forget Fujiyama Mama from 1955, which went to #1 in Japan and has been well known in this country, too, the United States.
Uh-huh.
And
now I do it on every show also, and party, and a lot of those that you mentioned.
Sure, and Santo Domingo, you recorded in German, and that went to #1 in, I believe, 6 different German-speaking countries.
Yeah, that was really quite a shock, and it was a shock when they asked me to come to Germany and record in their language, and that was another very big challenge. And then the first song they released got up to #1 and stayed there a long time, and people in Germany still sing that song along with me.
Sure.
And every generation knows the song. It's like a standard.
Mm-hmm. And just another fact to throw out there, you also recorded over 50 albums throughout the years, which is very impressive.
Yeah, we used to have to record at least 2 albums a year and 4 singles. So that's why when you look at the body of work of recordings, artists from my era, that's why you see so many songs recorded. It took a lot of songs to get that many albums.
Sure.
And singles done, yeah.
And not only have you appeared on such great and well-known shows as The Dick Clark Show, Hee Haw, Grand Ole Opry Live, Music City Tonight, but you also hosted your own television show a few years back. What was it like to host your own show?
Well, it was a challenge, but I certainly enjoyed it. That was a television show that was syndicated. I guess you call it syndicated.
Sure.
It was for the Christian television network, and I did a gospel show with Leon McAuliffe and different local people, and so it didn't set anything on fire, but I enjoyed doing it, and it was good to do.
And, well, that's right, you recorded it and performed nothing but gospel music for a long time, from 1970s up through, what was it, the early 90s?
No, the 80s.
In the 80s? It was
85. I kind of started venturing back into rockabilly and touring in Europe, and found all of these bands that I didn't know I had, and began working. 90% of my jobs were in Europe and Scandinavia.
Sure.
So that plunged me back into the secular field rather than totally gospel. But I was ready. I had missed, singing country music and rockabilly.
Sure.
So in this way, I get to do some of all of it.